I'm Aiden, and 2024 was a hell of a year for games, huh? Balatro, Final Fantasy VII Reverse, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, Metaphor ReFantazio, Astrobot, all of these games I have not played. It's not for a lack of time or anything like that, I just have a tendency to procrastinate on games I really want to play. And that was still a theme of this year. I tried my best to get through quite a few games on my backlog that I either hadn't finished or hadn't started. Some I succeeded in doing so, some I dropped, and some became my favorite games not just of 2024, but of all time. So, because I want to, I'm going to rank every game I played in 2024. This is not just restricted to games that came out last year. If it came out in a previous generation but I played it for the first time last year, or if I started playing it in 2023 but finished it in 2024, it's going on the list. Gonna have quite a few controversial opinions, and I got quite a few games to cover here. So these reviews, if that's what you want to call them, aren't gonna be long. So without further ado, let's begin with... This is probably my most unpopular opinion on this list, but I really don't like Rivals of Aether 2. To be clear, it is absolutely not the worst game on this list, but it's probably the one I was most disappointed by. Of the first Rivals of Aether so much. I've been playing it since it came out on Switch, and it was one of the first games I bought when I finally got a PC in 2021. The movement is so perfect, hit falling is one of the most fun mechanics ever put into a fighting game, the aesthetics are great, and Arcane might be my single favorite character to play in a fighting game ever. Needless to say, I was super hyped when Roa 2 was announced. I was going to pre-order it myself, but my friend Element Angel did for me, absolute legend. And then the first beta came out. I really didn't vibe with it. I played Maple for the majority of the betas, because Arcane wasn't there, and a lot of things just felt off. Dashing felt like so much more of a commitment, wave dashes went nowhere, jabs did no hit stunts, so jab cancels effectively weren't a thing anymore. The top blast zone is psychotically big on every map. Crouch canceling was the thing. Seriously, I fucking hate this mechanic. I played every other beta after it, and all the problems I have with it never really went away as the betas just kept coming. And when the game officially released and Arcane felt so awful in the new engine, I knew I wasn't going to jive with it. There are a lot of things to like about Rivals 2. Ledges are the best they've ever been implemented in a platform fighter, the visuals are gorgeous, and it's still super fun to watch. And I'm genuinely really happy it's succeeding. Dan Fornace and Aether Studios absolutely deserve it. But it's not something I can see myself playing. Oh well, that's just how it goes sometimes. I've never actually been too into the Mario sports games. These were games I've pretty much always just played at a friend's house and never really owned myself. But I've always wanted to check out the Mario sports games on handhelds. RPGs are probably the genre I play the most, and I do love a good Mario RPG. Unfortunately, this game's flaws show pretty quick. It's extremely shallow, and my attention wasn't held as I went higher up the ranks. Didn't have the patience to play through it. I will say though, the dialogue and presentation is surprisingly great. The pixel art in this game is gorgeous, especially for the environment, and the sound design is really nice. And when you beat an opponent, the game really beats it into you that you took something from them. Each team has a different reaction. I was surprised by how well done it was every time. Wish I liked the core of the game more. Borderlands 2 is a game that's been in my Steam library since I think around 2021, so needless to say, this is long overdue. It's always been a game that piqued my interest due to its awesome art style, great music, and gunplay. But unfortunately, I didn't vibe with it at all. I put a solid 7 hours into this game with 2 other friends to see if it would click earlier this year. It just wasn't. See, I grew up on games like Titanfall 2 and Team Fortress 2. When I'm playing a first-person shooter, I want to be able to move. And Borderlands 2 just doesn't scratch that itch for me, unfortunately. Not a bad game, but definitely not one that's made for me. Man, this was easily the game that made me the saddest to play while playing through it. I tried so hard to like it. I ended up putting 50 hours into it across like 6 to 7 months of play, and I just couldn't finish it. I've stated before that the Xeno series is my favorite series in all of media, and it still is. So not liking the one that's eluded me for so long really hurts. What sucks even more is that I got to play Xenoblade Chronicles X because I met up with my friend Kugel the Clever at a fighting game event called Floating Point all the way back in 2023. Christ, that feels like a lifetime ago now. Anyways, he asked me, how's that Xenoblade X playthrough going? And I responded, oh, I'm still having trouble emulating it. And he just fucking buys me a Wii U off eBay on the spot. Dude wouldn't even let me argue. I really feel guilty about that, fuck. I started the game around 2 weeks later on stream, and after all the time I put into it, after everything, I just didn't like it. Now, there are things I did love about Xenoblade X. This game's jump is probably the singular best I've felt hitting the jump button in any game ever. You go so high if you get a running start, and it's so much fun. And the world is as expansive and beautiful as you'd expect a Monolith Soft game to be. The characters are all charming and fun, and the plot is so intriguing and cool. There's a twist in Chapter 5 that blew my mind. And the music, oh my god. The soundtrack is by Attack on Titan and Kill la Kill composer Hiroyuki Sawano, and it legit might be my favorite of his work. Tracks like Uncontrollable, NLA Day, Mono X, and In the Forest, my god, man. Listen to the OST if you haven't. Behind jumping, it's my favorite part of the game. But that's about where my praises end. The combat in this game wasn't fun. Overdrive spam is boring and makes everything effortless, and the excessive amount of motion blur gives me a gigantic headache. Seriously, who on earth decided this was good visual design? Side quests were so boring and the pacing was abysmal. Something every other Xenoblade game excels at is letting me experience the world and the story at my own pace. Anytime I want to explore or do side content or fight bosses, I can. In Xenoblade X though, that side content is mandatory, and the side content is like if every side quest was Colony 6. The story just screeches to a halt every 2 hours to make you go and do 50 different fucking fetch quests. They kill both the pace of the story and my motivation to play the game. The expansive world that felt like it had so much love and care put into it that I usually would have loved to explore and discover, I instead couldn't be asked because I knew most of it would just be locked off to me because they didn't have the right level or means of traversal or whatever. Now, part of the world being locked behind progression is fine. That's not what riles me up. What riles me up is this game wasting my fucking time. And it does, constantly. It reeks of a lack of content and rushing to get the Wii U an exclusive. What sucks even more is that I can see a great core of a game here. It feels like a prototype for most of the open world games Monolith Soft would be involved in on the Switch. Namely Breath of the Wild and Xenoblade 2. Two of my favorite games of all time. And the game deserves props for that. Without this, without the practice and lessons they learned from Xenoblade X, we would not have them. But it doesn't have the polish or magic they do. Whether due to a lack of time, budget, or whatever, it just doesn't. I really, really hope Definitive Edition cleans up the issues I have with it because I want to love this game. I really, really do. But with what I've been given, I just can't. The original Golden Sun is maybe the most basic by-the-numbers RPG I have ever played. That's both to its advantage and detriment for me. Because sometimes a basic RPG that you can just pick up and play easily at any point is really nice. The game squeezes a lot out of the GBA's minuscule amount of power. Seriously, the game's visuals and animations are still mind-blowing this many years later. But on the other side of the coin, I got pretty bored pretty quick playing Golden Sun. The story wasn't gripping me, and the combat definitely wasn't. It's a game I definitely want to give a second chance at some point because the core of the game is delightful. But I put 5 hours into it, and while every part of the game was charming, there was nothing that really hooked me and compelled me to keep playing. Apparently the sequel is way better in almost every regard, so maybe I'll just pick that one up at some point instead. Alright, from here on out we're at the games I really liked this year. Everything I would rate at least a 7, which by my rankings is a good game worth playing if you're interested. Slay the Princess was a game gifted to me by my friend Aria for my birthday. I should preface this by saying I'm not the biggest fan of visual novels, not because of any silly preconceived notions about the game genre being too anime or anything like that. I just have intense ADHD and they normally can't hold my attention. If I wanted to read a book, I'd read a book is my normal reaction to them, which is also a bit tough because I have dyslexia. But I wanted to give it a shot because I loved its aesthetic, the focus on the player choice, and the voice acting. And all of those are great. The routes I played in Slay the Princess, I all thoroughly enjoyed. The dialogue is top notch, I love all the designs of the princess, and I don't really want to say more than that because that's getting into spoiler territory, and if you're interested in Slay the Princess, you should absolutely play it blind. My thoughts on it is that it's a great story and subverts your expectations with this kind of plot super well, and I played until I at least finished the game once, but that satisfied me, and I don't really want to go back and get everything else. Tekken 8 originally wasn't even a game I was going to pick up because I didn't really like Tekken 7. While I loved watching the game, it's for real one of the hypest fighting games to watch ever, right up there with Melee and Marvel vs. Capcom 3. That set between Nii and JDCR at Rev Major 2017, god, it gives me chills every time, it's so good. It's not really a fighting game made for me. See, I'm a Smash turned Guilty Gear player. I like my games fast-paced and mashy. Every time I pressed a button in Tekken 7, I felt like I was playing with an intense amount of delay because there are no buttons faster than frame 10, and moving felt extremely stiff. Made it hard for me to get into it. But the local I normally go to for Smash Ultimate on Mondays, Pixel Bar, also runs a Tekken 7 tournament on Wednesdays. So when Tekken 8 released, naturally it was installed on their free play PS5s. On a whim, after getting eliminated from bracket one day, I just borrowed a PS5 controller from the bar and hopped on with my friend CoolJoe70. And it was really fun. The new heat system made creating interactions a lot easier, movement was way easier to get into due to the sidestep and backdash changes, and I picked a character I immediately clicked with. Warren! Now as a Hwoarang main, I love two things in this world. Mashing 4 and men. At low level, I think Hwoarang is ridiculously easy, as he's hard to open up when he gets in, and he pretty much just gets to auto-mix you when he goes into his flamingo stance. And so, without even owning the game, I rocked up to Pixel on Wednesday, paid the entry fee, and went 0-2. I mean, I wasn't expecting anything else. I probably had around 2 hours of playtime tops, and most of the people there had been playing for years. What's important is that I had a lot of fun. The community was super welcoming. I even hopped on comms for a bit and just chat shit. This continued for around 2 months. I won a few sets on some weeks against other complete noobs, and continued to enjoy the vibes there. And when the game came on sale, I bought it. Got up to red rank in 2 weeks, and then I uninstalled it. I had my fun with Tekken 8, but as I played more, I realized this game wasn't really for me. Defense in this game is hard. Not only do you need to remember so many different moves across so many different characters, you have to remember what's sidesteppable, duckable, launch punishable, etc. In other fighting games, I can just remember what buttons my opponent will be spamming the most, and the counterplay to that. When I'm playing Tekken, pretty much every single person at low, mid, and high level plays completely different because of how many moves each character has. It wasn't something I was interested in putting a lot of time into. It's definitely a skill issue, but I can confidently say I had a lot of fun with the time I played Tekken 8. I'll still randomly show up to events just to have fun, spectate some good-ass Tekken, and mash some buttons with Hwoarang. Also, the music for this game is incredible. Not Tekken's best OST, that still goes to 6 or Tag 2, but it's high up there. Some of my favorite tracks include Volcanic Bomb Climax, Neo City Normal, Streak of Blue, and Golden Meadow. Go to your locals, it's the best way to improve and find community. Your skill level doesn't matter at all, the people you meet and grow close with do. Also, hi Pixel fellas if you're watching, I'll swing around again at some point, I promise. Okay, this one just barely counts. I've been playing Risk of Rain 2 since around mid-2023, but I only beat its final boss Mithrix in January 2024. And I didn't play it for like 10 months. Immediate controversial opinion, I think Risk of Rain is kind of boring even when playing with friends. Maybe that's because all my friends are way better than me and get items super fast, so I just have to sit back and watch as they play. Or maybe it's because the game is slower than I expected it to be, but I just could not get into it. That's a shame too. I adore roguelikes. I love Dead Cells, I love Space Bandit, I love Skull the Hero Slayer, hell, Hades is in my top 10 games of all time. And in all of those games, I can get super far into a long run, die to some random enemy, and think, I wanna go again. Risk of Rain 2, I die to some fuck-ass Theo, and I think, yeah, that's enough. That was until I played with my friends Cornelius, Fuzzy Boots, and Theo Chandran, and installed a mod called Share Suite. What that does is anytime someone gets an item, everyone else playing gets a random item too. This made the game infinitely more fun for me, as I was finally on a level playing field with everyone else. I could move, I could do damage, I was actually having fun. Now there's something to be said about needing a mod to make the game enjoyable, whether that's a skill issue or a problem with the game is up to you, but either way, I've been having fun hopping on Risk of Rain 2 every month or two and just having a good run with my friends. Its environments, music, and atmosphere are all top tier. I do wish I enjoyed the actual combat and gameplay loop a bit more, but yeah, well, I've had my fun with it now. Chrono Trigger is a game that I've been meaning to play for years now. I couldn't tell you the reason it took this long, but when the great Akira Toriyama passed away in March of this year, I wanted to experience as much of his work that I hadn't interacted with already as I could. I read and watched Sandland, loved it, finally read Dr. Slump, very fun, and of course, finally played Chrono Trigger. A game he did practically all the art for. Character designs, settings, and animated cutscenes for the PlayStation port were all done by him and his team. These are absolutely some of the best character designs he's ever come up with. Luca, Robo, Magus, and of course, Chrono himself are my favorites. I get so giddy noticing all the small details on their outfits. His attention to detail is like no other. Man, I still can't believe he's gone. It doesn't feel real. The medium of art as a whole would not be the same without Akira Toriyama. Dragon Ball is maybe the most influential manga of all time, and all of his other works speak for themselves. As for Chrono Trigger itself, it's good, but it took a while for it to click with me. Like, a long while. Like, halfway through the game a while. Found most sections before the awakening of Lavos either tedious or frustrating. The environments and locations were amazing, and the music is some of the best I've ever heard in a game. Magus' theme is like top 5 boss tracks ever, but the actual battles I was just mindlessly button mashing through without any effort. Should be said, I wasn't playing with active time battle system because I hate that system. I want to take my time in RPGs, but there was literally no struggle without it. First battle I actually enjoyed was Magus. I actually had to think there. It was a great boss battle, that. There's no other battle in the game like it. Every other boss battle that was hard due to bullshit rather than good design. That said, I really loved every party member in this game. I really enjoyed all of their individual side quests and character development. My favorite was easily Robo's, who I named Bobby in my playthrough. I'm a total sucker for AI realizing their humanity stories. and the conclusion to his quest really warmed my heart. Also adored Frog, who I named Funny Frogman. Amazing theme, amazing design, amazing arc. And I love just how much control the game gives you after Lavos is awakened at the end of time. You can fight him whenever you feel you're ready, and I adore when games give you that choice. Actually gave me some Breath of the Wild vibes. Chrono Trigger is an incredibly important RPG that I really wish I liked more. I ended up liking more than I disliked, but it's a game I don't really have any desire to go through again to get all the endings. Another game that I should have played a long time ago. I played Half-Life Alyx before I got to this. Probably the most immersed I've ever been in a video game. To be fair, that's cheating, it's virtual reality, but for a few days afterwards, I was legit trying to summon things with my hand like in the game. It actively fucked with my muscle memory. Anyways, Half-Life 2 was free on Steam for its 20th anniversary, so I picked it up, and outside of boss fights, I do not understand people who said this game aged poorly. Somehow, it still looks fantastic, plays fantastic, feels fantastic, is engaging, entertaining, pretty much everything you'd expect from a Valve release. God, I miss when these guys made games. I haven't finished the game yet, but the level design and mini tutorials are done with such perfection I cannot believe this game came out in 2004. It's got to be up there with the greatest FPS campaigns I've ever played. It's so consistent and so fun, and I love all the characters and the amazing world. I just want to go and play it now. I will say, some of the downtime in the driving sections is kind of a pace killer, and as aforementioned, the bosses suck. But other than that, it's really hard for me to find critiques for this game. I haven't actually finished it, which is why the section is longer, but if you haven't played Half-Life 2 and you're a first-person shooter fan, give it a chance. It hasn't aged a day. This was easily my most hyped release of 2024. Hades is in my top 10 games of all time, and when the sequel got announced, I was losing my shit. There was still so much from the Greek pantheon that it hadn't pulled from, and so many things it could expand on from the first game. The new regions, weapons, the character designs, oh my god. Hades, for my money, actually has just the greatest character designs in media. Everyone looks gorgeous. And the music? My lord. While I don't think it's as good a soundtrack as the first, it's very close. Coral Crown, I Am Gonna Claw Out Your Eyes and Drown You to Death, Olympus Aflame, Doom City, all top tier. My friend Dez gifted it to me as soon as it came out in early access, and in that first week, I played for like 12 hours and I loved it. It took me a long time to get used to the new magic system and running. Seriously, sometimes I still just mash dash instead of holding down the button because that's just how ingrained in my muscle memory it is. But they're changes I ultimately welcome. They make real-time decision-making and positioning a lot more impactful. The character writing and visuals are as great as you'd expect of a Supergiant game, and I love this game's progression a lot more than the first. The new tarot cards, spells, and weapons all add a lot. My personal favorite is the axe. Funny Beyblade move go brrrr. Though I miss this thing when it wasn't nerfed. It's a lot more sluggish now. I think I might like 2's gameplay loop more than the first overall, but I don't think I like the story as much. The dialogue, voice acting, and characters are all top tier, but it's not gripping me as much as the first one did in that department. I think it's just me preferring the stakes and relationships of the first game. In Hades 1, the conflict between Zagreus and his father is so incredibly well written, believable, personal, and emotional. It's the core of the game. Almost every relationship Zagreus has ultimately relates back to the conflict he has with his father. In Hades 2, the conflict is for all of Olympus, and raising the stakes is great of course, but Melinoe never really has that extremely close relationship that Zagreus had with his father with anyone you meet. What Kronos did to her was unforgivable, and that drives her, but that conflict between them just isn't as interesting for me. To be fair though, the game's not finished yet, so I don't think it's fair to judge it on the same merits as one of my favorite games of all time. But I do have other issues. Namely, the level design. Hades 2 is just bigger than Hades 1. I'm not referring to anything else I've talked about in this section. I mean, the world itself is just bigger. It doesn't always work in its favor. The third region, the Fields of Morning, is dreadful to walk through at points. It's just a big empty map with barely anything to find, and even with the golden petals guiding you, ridiculously easy to get lost in. The prior two regions, Erebus and Oceanius, are fine. Oceanius' constant hazards are really annoying, but ultimately, they're just not as captivating for me as Hades 1's region. Tartarus is an excellent final region though. It's so cool that the place you spent the most time at in the first game is ultimately your final challenge. And then there's the surface. It's not finished yet, but oh my god, this is a treat. This was legit my biggest want from Hades 1, a way to explore Olympus and interact with the gods in a more direct manner. And boy did they deliver. I love the two regions we've been given so far. Their atmosphere and designs are top tier. Overall, I've loved what I played of Hades 2. The only reasons it's not higher is because it's still in beta. I am patiently awaiting the full release, and I truly cannot wait for what comes next. So here's a fun fact. This is the one game on this list I don't actually own. I have only played this game at friends' places or social events, but that said, this is the best Mario Party in 2 decades. The boards, the visuals, the vibes, they're all so good. The only other Mario Parties I enjoyed this much are 6 and 3. Jamboree perfectly balances Mario Party's trademark bullshit and luck with actual skill. Not enough skills to where you need any to win, but enough to where if you get a lead mid-game, you're likely to keep it until the last 5 turns. You know, the only section of Mario Party that actually matters. I do wish there were more minigames. 60 feels like a pretty small amount, but they're all absolutely made up for by the boards. Outside of 6, this is the best collection of boards in the series history. Mega Wigglers, chill vibes, an easygoing atmosphere, and lack of an impactful gimmick makes for a simple game should you want it. Goomba Lagoon's insanely big map and 4 different islands and tide changes is great for long games. Galeria, I think, is the weakest one, and it's a board I refuse to play on for more than 15 turns, because that alone already takes 2 hours due to how often the game stops you with shops and stamps, and it's too small for its own good. I've never actually played Mario's Rainbow Castle. I really should. Roll'em Raceway is exceptionally fun, and it's about time Mario Kart was referenced in Mario Party as a board. That gimmick felt obvious. But King Bowser's Keep, oh, baby. This is up there with Fair Square and Clockwork Castle as a contender for my favorite Mario Party map ever. It's massive, it looks great, and it has probably the most psychotic gimmick ever. The map has more Bowser spaces than usual, and every time you land on one, whatever Bowser takes from you, he keeps in a vault. And whoever opens that vault takes everything he took, and basically just wins the game. It's unbalanced as hell, and it's hilarious. It is the perfect party game. I try to get one in whenever I'm at a gathering of at least 4. But for all of that, it's kind of a hard game to talk about. Mario Party's really simple, and I think it's a game you have to play for yourself with some friends. Because you don't really talk about Mario Party as a game. You talk about what happened in those games. What bullshit you got hit by, how you got clutched on by a bonus star, laughing over turning off minigame help against your friends who have never played before. I've already made so many memories that'll last a lifetime with this game. I'm gonna keep doing so. Shoutouts to Marianne for hitting me with a train 4 fucking times in Westopilis. That was fun, you absolute fish. Look, I've already made an entire 25-minute video gushing about this game, so I'll keep this extra short. Shadow Generations is the best game I played this year that came out in 2024. You can go and watch that if you want more of my thoughts, but I loved this game so much. I wanted a 3D Sonic game I felt like I could love again for so long, and I finally got that after nearly a decade. Crazy that the best Sonic game since Generations was just Generations again. Something I didn't talk about in that video that I actually wanted to was the hub world. This felt like what they were trying to do with Frontier's open zone concept, but refined and a lot more compact. I love all the little Easter eggs around it and how fun it is to move in and the boss areas. It's class. I legit lost a lot of hours on stream to just dicking around and finding collectibles here. God, Shadow Control's so good, and the game looks so great, and the music is so good, and I'm just so happy it exists. This, along with Sonic the Hedgehog 3, made this the best year to be a Sonic fan in a long, long time. I was fed. Can only hope this momentum keeps up. I have so much to say about this game. So much so that I'm actually planning on making a full video on it. It's quite embarrassing that it's taking this long considering I beat the game nearly 8 months ago now, but it will be out before July, I promise. Combing through 50 hours of footage is hard, man. Regardless, I'll keep this section short. Fire Emblem 4 Genealogy of the Holy World, for all of its problems with backtracking, poorly explained mechanics, and pacing, is the single best game on the SNES, and one of the best RPGs I have ever played. Its world, stories, and characters are so rich and well thought out, and its gameplay, once you really delve into it, is so immaculately designed. The amount of choice you have in every single fight you take and how you build your party still hasn't been replicated in some modern Fire Emblem games. Streamed all of my run over on my Twitch, and I saved all the VODs, they're in the description, and I'm so happy I did. I don't think I could have beaten the game without my friend's help, because I'm both bad, and this game is hard. Like, Jesus Christ, how many Dragon Knights? Every time I overcame a battle, every time I came up with a strategy that worked, I felt like the smartest dude in the world. And I really don't get that way with many games. And Chapter 5, my god, might be the most ballsy thing I've ever seen a video game do. If you know, you know. I can't wait to talk about that moment. So if you haven't already, stop waiting for that remake you know will never come, and play Fire Emblem 4. I'll even link the English patch in the description for you. Go on, right now. You won't regret it. Holy fuck, I love this game. It's one of the only 2 games on this list to have entered my top 25 games of all time list this year. A spiritual successor to the adventure series of Sonic games with some boost mechanics and character action combat thrown in. Spark the Electric Jester 3 is pretty much everything I could want in a 3D platformer. absolutely insane to think it was only made by one guy. Felipe Daniluz is genuinely one of the best indie developers going right now, and I can't wait to see what he cooks up next. The movement in this game, oh my lord. It's the adventure formula perfected to a T. There are a few playable characters in this game, but I mainly played Float. Spark carries far more weight with him, is better in combat, and is faster, but Float's float made me feel like I was cheating. Finding points to skip through the level with it was so satisfying, and it really clutched for me a few times. It feels fantastic to use. I couldn't believe just how far I was going sometimes. I actually want to give a shout out to the story of this game. I was unfortunately spoiled by the big twist before I played it, but I couldn't believe just how solid and engaging the whole plot was. The characters are funny, the development's good, its hype moments hit, and that twist would have blown my mind if I didn't already know about it. It's pulled off and foreshadowed excellently. I do think a weak point of this game comes in its combat. It's fine, not really anything special. I kinda just mashed 3 buttons and won. Juggling is ridiculously broken and too easy to keep up. Parrying feels fantastic though, love the amount of hit stop it has and the effect used for it. Should be said though, that this game has the best feeling homing attack I've ever used. As much as I love Sonic, the homing attack somehow always manages to be jank as hell. But it never is in Spark 3. I pretty much always hit my target. However, the best thing about it are the levels. The stages in this game are incredible. Some of the best ever put in a platformer. I'm probably going to make an all levels ranked video on this game someday, but some standouts include Double Moon Villa, one of my favorite opening levels of all time. Couldn't believe just how open it was running through and how every other stage in this game continued to be. Lost Rivera, clearly inspired by Grail Canyon and Bullet Station from Sonic Heroes, but it's the best possible iteration of this kind of stage. District 5, a masterpiece in rising tension as you play through it. Utopia Celta, while it kind of becomes just a straight runway towards the end, everything leading up to it is top tier. One of the best final levels I've played in a game ever. And Nighttime Phenomena, which genuinely is up there with my favorite stages ever put in a platformer. Oh, and the music. I almost forgot to mention the music. It's really good. Some of my favorites are Beatdown Tower, Lost Ravine, and my personal favorite, Protest City, which you're actually listening to right now. Also, I know it's from Spark 2, but Ultimate Final Boss is one of my favorite tracks in any video game and totally deserves a shout out. I really couldn't believe the depth of content of this game either. The main game itself is pretty short, even though I decided to do all the bonus levels as I went. I still beat it in 6 hours. But after you beat it, you unlock all of Spark 2's levels, which, to be frank, haven't aged all that well. You can tell Felipe was still figuring out how to design 3D levels, as they're very short without many interesting obstacles. The final 2 are really great though, they can absolutely hang with the best of Spark 3. But on top of that, there are an incredible amount of collectibles, and the medals are actually super hard to get. You have to have a near Adventure 2 A rank level of precision for a lot of these, and it's incredibly satisfying. If you love 3D platformers and haven't already, please give Spark 3 a chance. I was blown away by just how great it was, and it deserves to be in the conversation for best indie game ever made. It's blisteringly fast, beautiful, has a great plot, great music, and amazing level design. It's cheap on both Steam and Switch, and deserves your time and attention. Can't recommend it enough. If I got one person to check out this incredible game, this video was worth it.
We watched Night Get Over Nightmare!
Okay, by all metrics this shouldn't count. I am totally cheating as I started playing this game in 2022 when Testament came out. But up until July of 2024, I only had like 50 hours in it. As of time of recording, I have nearly 380. Yeah, this was by far the game I played the most last year. Despite starting to take the game seriously when Wild Assault Hard Knockdown was a thing, I love Guilty Gear Strive. I think as a game, I'd probably put the previous 3 games before this above it, but nothing did as much for me this year as this game. Fighting games are the best genre in video games. No other genre feels so good to get good at. No other genre creates community like it does, and no other genre feels so rewarding. I've been playing Super Smash Bros. Ultimate for 5 years, and I've been falling out of love with it for a while. I still love the Smash community and playing it more casually, occasionally entering a tournament here and there. But after 5 years of doing anything, you're gonna grow a bit weary. I've been entering events and just feeling nothing whether I won or lost. And at the biggest Australian fighting game event of the year, Battle Arena Melbourne, I saw maybe the greatest grand final set of any game I've ever seen live in Blitzkrieg versus Taiyuara. And after that, I came back to Ultimate to see Young Link versus Rob win his semis. It was at that point, I realized I needed a long break. And so I decided to full send Guilty Gear just to see how much I'd enjoy it. And I put nearly 50 hours into it in that month alone. Seriously, look at the jump in this Steam chart, it's hilarious. It was safe to say this was going to be my main game for the foreseeable future. I currently co-main Testament and Slayer. Sometime I play Sin for funsies, but it's mostly those two. Testament was the character that drew me to Guilty Gear. Despite being kind of bad, they're one of my favorite characters to play in any fighting game. I love zoners with teleports, and staying combos are so sick, and their setups are so cool, and they're a character that means a lot to me emotionally. I've even cosplayed them recently. That was something I was really nervous about. As for Slayer, man, this character is stupid. Even after being nerfed and now having the worst defense in the game, his mix and damage are so oppressive. I still don't know how to do pile bunker loops, and I'm still doing nearly 80% to Potemkin off counter hit close slash. Love this guy, so much fun. Also, aesthetically, Strive is probably my favorite video game of all time. The character designs and models are so beyond beautiful, the stages are all atmospheric and gorgeous, the voice acting is fantastic all around, and the music? Yeah, it's one of the best OSTs in video game history, and it's not even the best one in the series. Shout out to XX. But the main reason I've stuck with it so much through everything so far is because Strive made me actively excited to compete again. For the first time in forever, I get so happy when I clutch out a win. When I made my first top 8 at the local, I popped off super hard. I get frustrated when I come inches away from making a big upset only to lose. God, does that happen often. I get excited to practice new setups and incorporate things I've seen top players do into my game plan. And of course, I get to see my friends. That's always the best part about fighting games, the community. It's why I stuck with Smash for so long. If any of you are watching this and care, please know I still love being there even though I'm not showing up as much as I used to. I would not be the person I am without you, and I'll miss you all so much when I eventually leave. And to the Strive community, specifically those in my university scene, thank you for making me into a better player in person through 2024. I'm really, really happy I met you all. I've ran tournaments for this game, I've traveled interstate for it, and I compete in at least 2 to 3 brackets every week. I can't see myself stopping anytime soon. Even with how much I complain about Potemkin, Nagoriyuki, Bedman, Johnny, I love Guilty Gear. Nearly everything about it. Like I said in the Tekken section, go to your locals. You'll find great people and have more fun with the game you're playing than you could have ever imagined. Thanks for watching, everyone. This video was meant to be out in February, but I've been on a longer mental break than I expected. Next video is on Future Redeemed. Take care of yourselves.